Hello, I hope you're doing well. Welcome back to another CSGO News episode, and a very important one at that. If you guys want to come back later today, I'll have a full episode of CSGO News out there because a bunch of team changes are underway and some great things in CSGO News. Some other not so great things, unfortunately enough, I want to talk about a very important story out there, that being Jess Cliffe. If you guys were not aware, actually back last year, myself, other public sources covering this story as it did break and go quite a bit viral. Jess Cliffe, being the co-creator of Counterstrike itself, was alleged of sexually exploiting a minor. It was actually back in 2017, sometime in 2018, about a year ago in February, is where the story actually did break, where apparently he did plead guilty to these allegations. Now, he finally came forward just yesterday after all this time about his side of things, and I want to share both sides with you. So again, if you guys want to go to media sources out there and see the initial side of things, here's now what Jess said did happen, and I want to give him a chance to share his word, and I think it's definitely worth noting for all of you guys the things he goes into detail about, and I really do hope in the future he comes out in some other way besides a Reddit post to clarify his side of the story. But let's break it down, a 4-part piece just very briefly for all of you. Part 1 was all about the plea deal in itself, where Jess states he actually took a lesser sentencing because he didn't trust a fair trial with the American legal system, despite thinking with his evidence that he would be cleared and exonerated of these allegations, which means he would be let go and let free. He took the lesser sentence because he did not trust the American legal system to give him a just and fair trial. He pleaded guilty to assault in the second degree, although it wasn't necessarily a plea of guilt. It was actually called an Alford plea. So in this case, he doesn't admit guilt or actually doing the crime. He just takes the much lesser sentence. And he also says, make sure to clarify in this first part, there was no sexual quid pro quo, which means he did not expect a sexual favor in return. And in fact, he wanted a long-term relationship with the said alleged girl in this case. Part 2 is pretty simple. It clears up that he had never recorded their interactions. There was a wild rumor about there that he had actually been recording every time they did met, but he was never even charged with doing so. At one point in time, he even handed his phone over to the police, and the girl also had lied about the number of times they had met, which apparently was proven by the transcript taken by the court as well. So just a very quick assumption there made by the public as well, that he had recorded these interactions, thus making him come off as a very, very, very creepy guy. He clears it up in part 2 that apparently that was not true, and he was never even charged with doing so. Part 3 is where things get really interesting, though. It's actually where he states he was charged with 3 months of work release, where if you're actually employed at the time, you're sent to a government facility. It's not anywhere near a prison, but because Valve released him, he was actually sent to a regional justice center, not a prison still, and due to good behavior, he was actually let off less than 2 months after that, given that sentence of work release. So it was nowhere near a prison. He was actually just walking around, living his day-to-day life. He would help around the facility. It was not prison, it was work release, and again, just kind of an everyday life kind of thing, helping around this regional justice center. It was nowhere near prison, and he served less than 2 months after taking these charges. And then looking at part 4 in his conclusion, pretty much a very short statement here. The girl even admitted to police that she had actually been lying to Jess several times throughout their interactions and to multiple other men during this time, and pretty simply put, he was catfished. He was using a website at the time where to sign up you had to be 18 years or older, and the girl was not. Now, one quick clarification I think is very important here is, yes, there was no sexual quid pro quo during this relationship, but were there sexual interactions exchanged with this girl who was actually a minor? She was not of age. That is where the overall issue does align. Either way, though, no matter what, it does seem, due to the evidence in text, right? Nothing has been completely proven. You have to take his word for it. But what he has said here pretty much does allege, yes, this girl did lie to him several times. She was lying to other men. He had been catfished by a girl he did think was of age. It was not sexual quid pro quo. He wanted a long-term relationship. Were there sexual interactions, though, when she was underage is the ultimate question that has to probably be clarified, and likely why he will never be back in Valve HQ. I wanted to kind of break this story because this does, I think, definitely turn a better light towards this story. Obviously, a bit of a sketchy story no matter how you look at it, because the finite details we'll probably never know the full truth on, but definitely opens a wider eye when looking at these stories in the future. A guy who we thought, especially when I first saw this story, was disgusting, a creep, had been recording a girl, all due to allegations, right? She was underage, which of course she was at the time. Still, that was a definite issue here, but a lot of the other things that were actually added onto this, and then the background story of how he was actually lied to, how he did think she was of age. It adds a whole new brighter light, I think a better light for Jess in this story. I think it's very unfortunate he did lose his job due to these circumstances, but again, due to finite details we may never know, it's probably going to be a PR nightmare if Valve were to ever try and hire this guy again due to just publicity around this guy in the first place. I wish him the best of luck in the future. I'm glad that he has actually cleared up his side of the story, and again, I hope he does come out in the future publicly as well to state more of his side of the story to better clear clear his name. You guys can feel free to leave a comment down below what you think about this story, because it's certainly just a whole controversial issue out there. I don't want to take too hard of a standpoint on it, but as always, my name is Jake. I hope you guys all enjoy CSGO News. I'll be back here in a few hours with a much lighter episode of CSGO News about some other topics out there. But as always, hope you guys all enjoy. Until next time, take care.